Do you want to stay more focused on the right goals in your life, or even just figure out what the right goals are for you? Do you want clarity? Do you want better work-life balance? Well, you're in the right place. Welcome to Success Through Failure.
Welcome to the Success Through Failure podcast, the show that reveals failure as your path to success. You'll listen to intriguing interviews with some of the most successful people on the planet and learn how their failures became a launchpad for success and how yours can too. Here's your host, former Division I All-American wrestler, former Division I head coach, speaker, and personal coach, Jim Harshaw.
Welcome to another episode of Success Through Failure. Today, I bring you myself once again. I'm going to do a solo podcast here because there's something that's really strong on my heart that I know I need to share. And it's these sort of common themes that I've seen among successful people in sports, in business, and in life. And what I've kind of broken it down into is three things. I call them the three Ps. There's process, pause, and perspective. Okay, so I'm going to go through these three relatively quickly here for you so you can kind of listen to this one and move on with your day. So process. And I'm going to give you real concrete stuff here. This isn't going to be just sort of theory and stuff out in the ether, but it's going to be real concrete, practical stuff. So talking about process, I was a Division I head wrestling coach at one point in my life, and I remember not really having a clear process in how I taught and what my wrestlers did and how they executed during a match. And I started looking at some of these great programs like Iowa, like Cornell University and other schools, and learning from some of the best in the business. And I realized that they all have a process, right? A process for how their wrestlers go about a match, how they tie up, how they execute their moves, and, their primary offense and their secondary offense and their counterattacks, et cetera. And I just saw this theme of successful programs having a process. And as I've gone through life, kind of, looking at sports and now looking at business. I've been an entrepreneur several times. I owned a window cleaning, power washing type business years ago, sold that, had a software company, Riot Sports Marketing, which I think a fair amount of the listeners have heard of before. And I've always just sort of had my hand in entrepreneurship and connected with a lot of business owners and lived in sort of the entrepreneurial world. And the more I talk to highly successful entrepreneurs and business leaders, the more I see that they have a process, the way that they go about things in their life, right? They have, in their business, they have processes, right? I read a book when I started my first real business. I read a book called The E-Myth, and I recommended it to one of my clients recently, and he's reading it, and it's really helping him with his business. But it's about creating processes that allow you to work on your business rather than in your business. Working on your business means McDonald's being sort of the prototypical model for this, right? They built systems where you don't need highly trained people to operate the system. So you're trying to build the best possible systems and then giving people those systems to operate, and they can go and operate them. And you can step back and work on those systems rather than flipping burgers yourself. And it's the same in life. Okay. So I want to break these things down into sports, business, and life. And again, we're still talking about process here. Having a process in athletics and in sports, having a process in business, and having a process in your life. And that process in your life should allow you to operate at your maximum, operate at your peak. What is your process in the morning? When you wake up in the morning, do you have a concerted, effort? Is there a concerted effort into a routine, into a process for getting your day started the right way? What kind of food are you eating? What kind of thoughts are you having, or forcing yourself to have? Do you journal? Do you exercise? Or do you just kind of wake up and flip on the news, eat a bowl of cereal, grab a cup of coffee, and go out the door? And that's fine if that's your process. But the idea here is to develop the process and to make sure that your process is allowing you to operate at your peak in your relationships, at your peak in your work, and at your peak in your health and your fitness, etc. So that's process. So the way that I help people with process is through Reveal Your Path. And I've talked about these 4 components before in my program, Reveal Your Path. And number 1 is understanding your core values. What's most important to you? Number 2, building goals around those core values. Those core values that are things that are important to you, they should define your goals. It shouldn't be the media or what's parked in your neighbor's driveway or what your mom and dad say that they want for you. It's you. What are your core values? And then you build goals on top of those. That's the second step, is goals that are aligned with your core values, and goals in the 4 areas of your life that are important: relationships, self, health, and wealth. Those are the 4 areas where you should have goals. No more than 2 per area, 1 to 2 per area. Number 3 is the environment of excellence. So what is the environment in which you operating in? Again, we're still talking about process, and this is the process for maximizing your potential in your life here. So number 1 is core values. Number 2 is goals that align with those core values. Number 3 is this environment of excellence, this environment that allows you to perform at your peak. And that's the people that are in your life. That's the content, the media that you allow into your life. Are you listening to news or sports talk radio in the morning, or are you calling into Dr. Gilbert's The Success Hotline? Who if you haven't heard of The Success Hotline, I've interviewed Dr. Gilbert on the show before. I don't even know what number it is, but if you just Google Success Hotline, that's a great thing to do on your drive to work. That's the right type of message to be planting into your head every day. Are you journaling? What's the self-talk that you're doing, and how are you making yourself control that self-talk? So this is the process that allows you to maximize your life. Number 2, the second P. So again, we're talking about process, pause, and perspective. Now, pause. I've talked a lot about the productive pause on this podcast. And I've defined the productive pause as a short period of focused reflection around specific questions that leads to clarity of action and peace of mind. Think about that. Clarity of action and peace of mind. I mean, who doesn't want that? I mean, that's really what we're all seeking, is what's the next thing that I need to do? And you want clarity around that, and you want peace of mind around that. So when we talk about this pause, we look in sports, and the most valuable time of any season is the pause in the beginning of the season, the time when you sit down and you write out your goals, you plan your goals. That's the most valuable time during your season, really, that hour or so of sitting down and planning, right? And you look at in an individual event or a game or a match or a competition, and that pause is like a timeout, right? That can be sometimes the most valuable time spent during a game, is that hitting the pause button, reevaluating, where are we at? Where do we need to go? What's the score now? What do we need to change? What's working? What's not working? Okay, here's our plan moving forward. Go. Okay, so that's a timeout, right? It's hitting the pause button in the middle of competition. In business, what does that look like? In business, that looks like, again, goal setting. It looks like strategic planning. Some companies go as far as going on a retreat and doing their strategic planning, and it's implementing that. And it's the annual review. I mean, there's a right way and a wrong way to do it. Some people may have a bad sort of connotation of an annual review, but those should be a productive pause. Those should be moments in your life, in your business, where you get more done because you've hit the pause button. And so how does this look like? What's this look like in life? So again, we're talking about the second P. We have process, pause, and perspective. The second P being pause. And we talked about it in sports. We're talking about it in business. Now, how do we do this productive pause in life? Well, on a yearly, a sort of larger scale basis, it should be goal setting. A lot of people do it once a year. It's a great sort of interval of time to do it in. But planning out your year, what is it that you want to accomplish this year? It's a great time to sort of sit down and go through, what are my core values? What are my goals? What does my environment of excellence look like? And oh, by the way, I forgot to talk about the fourth one is the follow through. How am I going to set up a plan for long-term follow through when things get tough, when adversity happens, when life gets busy? How do I make sure I follow through on my goals? And that's by doing this, by having this pause once a year, you're going to get more done. You're going to be living intentionally as opposed to drifting through life, as opposed to being on autopilot day after day, week after week, month after month, year after year. When you hit the pause button, you get more done, you achieve more. And that's pause. That's the second P, right? So now for the third P is perspective, right? So we're talking about process, pause, perspective, the third P, perspective. So again, let's go through this in sports, in business, and then in life. In sports, perspective is the injured athlete, right? I remember some of the most valuable times in my wrestling career was when I was hurt. When I was hurt, I could pay attention to what the coaches were saying. I'd be watching practice and I'd be watching what the coaches were talking about, and I would see what they were talking about and see how that translated into my teammates who were out there working out. It gave me perspective, right? Another thing it gave me perspective is in the summer, I would work wrestling camps, and instead of being the student, I would become the teacher. And when you become the teacher, it gives you a different perspective. You're looking at the same problem from a different way. And that gave me a different perspective and helped me learn and sort of internalize some of the habits that I'm trying to teach. I was trying to teach young wrestlers, and it made me sort of realize, okay, I can do better at this as well. And so that's perspective in sports, right? Another thing that gives us perspective in sports is time, right? We look back on our athletic career. Right now, you and I have more perspective than we did when we were in the midst of it, right? So we have to get that perspective. And the great thing that's sort of built into coaching is built into sports is a coach, because when you have a coach, they're the person who gives you perspective. They're the person who asks you the questions and guides you in the right direction and kicks you in the rear end when you need it or picks you up when you need picked up. But that's the role of a coach. So how do you get this perspective now in business? Well, Eric Schmidt, the former CEO of Google, said, everybody in life, everybody needs a coach. And this is from, one of the highest performing CEOs on the planet. He's the CEO of Google. So that's perspective. How do you get perspective in business? Well, hiring a coach is a great way to gain perspective. Doing a 360 review is another one where you're getting perspective from your superiors, you're getting perspective from people who report to you, you're getting perspective from people who are sort of your colleagues, and you're getting perspective maybe from clients or people you interact with through your job or customers. And those are different ways to get perspective. And so how do you do this in life, right? Certainly we have perspective on the past in our life. We can look back, we have perspective on our life. But how do we gain that perspective here, now, today, in our life, so that we can succeed? Well, we can do it ourselves to some extent. We can journal, we can set goals, we can have a process. I talked about process already. Have a process for setting those goals. We got to hit the pause button, follow that process to gain perspective. We got to put those things together. And I just want to announce right now that I'm opening the doors once again to Reveal Your Path. I haven't done this since last year. I actually haven't opened the doors for Reveal Your Path for the small group program. Okay, so it's an opportunity for you to hit the pause button, to have a clear process to follow, and to gain perspective. So there's different options. There's a one-on-one option, there's a group option, or there's a kind of go at your own pace, do it yourself option. So if you're interested in Reveal Your Path, just go to revealyourpath.com. There's I haven't even, as of publishing this, I just sent out, I think, 1, maybe 2 emails by the time I'm publishing this. but I'm really going to be pushing it this week and announcing it. There's only 6 spots available. 2 of them have already been taken as of recording this, and so these things are going to get gobbled up pretty quickly. But I would love to have a great group to work with. So again, that's going to give you the pause, to help you with a process, and to give you perspective on your life, how you can maximize your life, stop drifting, get focus, stop being distracted, find balance, achieve your work goals, your professional goals, while making sure you're taking care of business at home, spending the right time with your family, being focused on your family, focused on your kids, and have your priorities in order. So if you're interested in that, check it out, revealyourpath.com. And until next time, take the time to get clear on your goals and embrace failure as a stepping stone on your path to success.